Is the Kansas City real estate market in trouble? In this video, we're breaking down 3 different topics, starting with 1, which involves national headlines and scam listings right here in Kansas City. Number 2, we're going to break down Kansas City real estate market trends from the month of May leading into June and what to expect the rest of the summer. And then finally, at the end of the video, we're going to break down an updated and kind of shocking forecast about where mortgage rates might be headed by the end of this year and early next year. Now, starting with the first part of the video, buyers beware, especially right here in Kansas City. This article popped up in the Kansas City Star. I know there have been other headlines about this across the country. The New York Post even featured this specific incident here in Kansas City. And the headline reads, "Scam listed Kansas City home for sale and charged $200 for tours. What to know about fake listings." And if you scroll down, you can see the for sale by owner. So this was obviously not listed by a real estate agent, real estate broker. This was supposedly the owner of the property. It really wasn't. It was some random person. It says a $1.6 million house appeared on Zillow in Kansas City recently for a price of $10,200. Turned out to be a scam listing, tricking prospective buyers into sending money through an online banking app to gain access to tour a home that wasn't even for sale. It looks like they went after first-time home buyers who obviously are having the toughest time finding homes right now. Mortgage rates are very high. And on top of that, oftentimes first-time home buyers don't have the cash reserves that a second, third, fourth-time home buyer typically had. Apparently, they charged $200 for each of those tours, and the description of the listing said something along the lines of, "Selling my home because my family and I own many houses across the US. Once a year, we sell one or a few of our homes to first-time home buyers for under $25,000. This is done to bless a family or individual that needs it, but also as a tax write-off for us." How deceptive of these people. This is absolutely ridiculous. If you've been caught up in any of this, I'm sorry that that happened to you. Hopefully you've been able to retrieve your money from this, but the scams just like this happen all over the place. Another instance in which you'll see them happen is if you go on Facebook and look at Facebook Marketplace for homes. I would never recommend it. And the reason why is because you'll find a lot of real estate agents who will take listing photos from the MLS, usually of homes that are under contract or already sold. And as soon as you reach out for information about that listing that appears like it's still active and on the market, they'll say, "Hey, sorry, it's sold. I can show you these other homes." But long story short, it's very important to be pretty careful, especially when seeing something like that. If it looks too good to be true, oftentimes it is, especially in this market. Nobody in their right mind would sell $1 million house for $25,000. So if you have any questions, if you run into this stuff in the future, run it by a real estate agent. You're welcome to reach out to me and I can verify whether this is like a real thing or if it's just a total scam. You could also go to the listing agent directly. If you use homes.com, they'll display the listing agent so you can communicate with them directly. It should not cost you any money to go and tour a home, unless you have an obscure kind of agreement with your real estate agent. And when we're talking about the listing agent, that's what the seller is paying them to do, is to show the home to prospective home buyers, whether they have an agent or not. Now that that's out of the way, we're gonna move on to part number 2, which is Kansas City real estate market trends from the month of May and also leading into the month of June. So according to this article from Realtor.com, it said in May, home prices in Kansas City had a median list price of around $297. Says the number of listings on the market shrank 10%, which is a bigger decrease than normal for this time of the year in the area. And these homes are also selling faster than at the same time last year. It says in May, the price per square foot increased by 3.6% compared with the month prior. Price changes in the heart of America are outpacing the national market, which increased at about 1.3%. So it's about 2 times as big of a month-over-month change here in Kansas City as opposed to the rest of the country. It goes on to say that homes in Kansas City take an average of 40 days to sell. That's really misleading, and I'll show you exactly why here in just a second. It also says, for comparison, nationally, homes take about 44 days on the market to sell. Now, if we go to this other tab, this shows all of the market stats produced by the Kansas City Regional Association of Realtors. You can see some pretty positive signs, all of these kind of green marks up here. There are some good ones, some bad ones, and one that is very, very deceptive, which is days on market. So you can see right here, it says 35 days on market. That article from Realtor.com said it takes about 40 days days on market for these homes to sell, but what if it only took 1 or 2 or 3 days? Right here, what I'm showing you is all of the sales from the month of May. These are for patio or villa homes, as well as single family detached homes. This also excludes all new construction homes, which typically take longer to sell. They're listed on the market as soon as construction begins in many cases, and that drastically distorts what that data shows, which is the 40 or 35 days to sell. As you can see, when we select the median statistic right here, right, we're excluding a lot of the outliers, which are reflected by the average. So as we scroll down this list, you've got Edgerton, which is right outside Gardner, Kansas, Fairway, Merriam. Those homes are selling in 1 day. But if you look at the average, which includes some of the homes that are taking longer to sell, maybe worse condition, overpriced, etc., those are taking about 3 days to sell in a couple of those cities. And if we just go down the list, you can see some pretty big variance between the median and the average sales time to sell. You can see in the city of Raymore, it takes a median of about 2 days for these homes to go under contract, but the average shows about 16 days. So the reason this is important is because if you're looking at all of those stats, and I know a lot of real estate agents publish those stats and kind of broadcast those and propagate those elsewhere, it can be misleading. And it can also put you in a worse position, making you think that you've got a little bit more time than you might actually have, which can make it very, very difficult to find a home. So typically what we're seeing in these very, very competitive suburbs, you're seeing about 1 to 5 days on market. Really, in most of them, you're going to see under 14 days as a median time on market. So when we're talking about this 35 days on market, very, very misleading and hides the truth in a lot of ways. You can see this month supply. This shows how long it would take, assuming that no other homes were listed on the market. How long would it take for all of the current listings to sell out? This is telling us it would take about a little over 2 months for all of those homes to sell. That is a really good sign. We've got the housing shortage right here in Kansas City, and seeing that there are more options, they're taking a little bit longer to sell on the market is certainly a good sign. 16% higher than this time last year is certainly another good sign. You can see the average sales prices increased a bit from last year. 99.6% of original asking price received. Completely depends on the specific city we're talking about. Sometimes it can vary based on the zip code or the little part of town that we might be talking about. You can see the closed sales are up by about 2%. Pending sales are about the same, but total inventory is up by about 8.4%. Now, if we go over here, this shows the month-to-month changes. So you'll notice that the percent of asking price received has jumped up. It was pretty comparable this time last year. It was around 100%. Now it's around 99.6%. So there's a little bit less competition. And the likely reason for that is you've just got more inventory, more options to choose from. You see the average price has just been kind of trending upwards as we're getting to the peak selling months of this summer. Days on market is trending downwards. You've got the month supply, which is looking really solid for this time of year. A lot of people are listing their homes on the market. Then you can see total inventory is at one of the highest points since probably the last year or possibly even the last 2. You can see October in 2022, 6,008 homes. You've got 6,629 this time around. So this is a very, very good sign. If you are in the market to purchase a home, just means there are a few more options to look at, and that can make a world of difference. Now, before we get to the third and final part of the video, it's all about the updated mortgage rate forecast for the remainder of this year. It'll likely have a pretty big impact on your decision to buy or sell a home, and whether you do it now or whether you wait until next year. So stay tuned for that. Before we get to it, if this is your first time seeing these videos, then welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Massa. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Kansas and Missouri. We make these videos about twice a month about the real estate market. We also do videos weekly about the Kansas City suburbs, new construction homes. We'd love to be your go-to resource for anything related to real estate here in Kansas City. So I'd invite you to hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see future videos. Of course, if you have any questions about the market, or if you'd like to have a conversation about how to make sure you're getting the best deal possible, whether you're buying, building, or selling a home right here in Kansas City, I invite you to hit the link at the top of the description below to get in touch. Otherwise, you can give me a phone call, text message, email, respond to all of those personally, and I'd love to have a conversation with you and see how I can support you. So moving on to the final part of the video, it's all about mortgage rates. The reason mortgage rates matter so much is because it's been like the major battle, whether you're buying or selling a home over the last year. It's the one thing that has caused housing costs to to just skyrocket, right? The cost of borrowing money doubling, almost tripling over the last couple of years. It's really made it a lot more expensive to purchase a home, and also caused a lot of people to rethink how quickly they want to sell their current home, even though it doesn't fit their day-to-day needs. So according to this chart from Housing Wire, if we zoom out over the last couple of years, you can see quite a big just jump, huge jump due to inflation. Of course, over the last couple of months, we've seen a little bit of a decrease. A lot of that stemmed from this past week's inflation. The CPI number that came out showed inflation that is slowly coming down. It's still not at a point where the Federal Reserve can come out and actually decrease interest rates, which would help mortgage rates and also help bring them down and make housing a little bit more affordable in the meantime. But as you can see right now, today, mortgage rates, conventional 30-year fixed rate loan is somewhere around 7.09%. Of course, earlier in May, when we did a market update a few weeks ago, they were around 7.58%. So quite a big kind of downwind pressure right there because of the inflation news. The mortgage industry kind of expecting rates to come down in the future, but it's going to take a whole lot longer than a lot of experts predict. In fact, you can go back and see videos that we've made from a whole year ago where all of the experts are predicting mortgage rates around this time this year would be somewhere around 6.5%, maybe even a lower 6%. Now, obviously, that has not happened. A large part of that, we've got a lot of government spending happening right now, and in the process of increasing interest rates to stop inflation, inflation has been very stubborn. Now, according to this article from Forbes, it lists all the different mortgage rate predictions from the biggest players in the industry. It starts by listing out that Freddie Mac says that rates will be around 6.5% through the end of Q2. So starting around August, we might see some movement downwards, but likely not until then. Fannie Mae says that rates will average about 7.1% in Q3, which means what we're seeing today, which is around that 7.1%, is likely what we'll see through the fall and leading into the winter. You've got the National Association of Realtors, which says that rates will average about 6.7% in Q3. You've got Mortgage Bankers Association kind of saying the same thing, that rates will decline to around that point. Bank of America says that rates will decline below 7%. These guys, I don't know who they are. I've never heard of them before, saying around 7%. One person says above 6.25%. Fair, that's a pretty fair prediction. I don't think they'll get to 6.25%. And then you've got the final one of 7 to 7.5% in the coming months. So if we just take a couple steps back, if you see mortgage rates hit below 7%, I think that's more of like a psychological barrier where if they dive below 7%, you might see more people who were expecting to buy a home this time next year. You might see them starting to speed up the timeline for purchasing a home just because it's sort of a symbolic threshold. Below 7% is somewhat palatable, but above 7% just seems really high, especially if you're with like a 2 or 3% mortgage rate, or maybe, you know, the 4 or 5% that we saw pre-pandemic. Of course, this all depends on what happens throughout the rest of the election. There will be a lot of uncertainty. Now, this article also goes on to say that mortgage rates have surged partly due to signals that the Fed will need to hold rates higher for longer as a result of hotter than expected inflation ratings and a strong labor market. It says in order to see mortgage rates drop more significantly, the Fed will need to see more evidence that inflation is slowing. My expectation is that it will take longer, and that sets the Fed up for a late summer or early fall adjustment. Mortgage rates could follow suit. It goes on to say that if you buy before interest rates really come down and prices go up, you're still ahead of the game, even if you're paying more in a mortgage payment for a short period of time. Now, there's certainly pros and cons to both of these approaches, but what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Does it make more sense to purchase the home right now where mortgage rates are higher, you're paying a higher monthly payment, but there's less competition and prices haven't increased just yet? Or would you rather purchase a home once mortgage rates start to decrease? A little bit more competition is fine. Maybe the prices rise a little bit, but I at least want to keep that monthly payment low and I don't want to deal with refinancing. Which side of the equation do you fall on? Leave a comment down below. And of course, thank you for watching this video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Feel free to reach out, give me a phone call, text message, email if you'd like to have a conversation about all of this and how we can make sure that you are set up for success, whether you're buying, building, or selling a home right here in Kansas City. Make sure to click on this playlist of all the real estate market updates videos that we've done on this channel, or you can click right here to see the video that YouTube thinks you would enjoy the most. So click either here or here, and I'll see you on the other side.